This is Comic Support, where we give you upcoming comic book stories for new readers and comic book superfans. The Uncanny X-Men are coming back, and in this issue, we're going to unravel all the things that we know so far and why this is an excellent time to start following our favorite mutant superheroes. Welcome to Comic Support. I'm Leon Scorpius, and in this issue, we're going to talk about what's next for the Uncanny X-Men as we prepare for their return this November. As always, a special thank you to Taymation Studios. You can catch all of our latest videos by subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications. If you enjoyed this video and other Comic Support videos, give us a like and comment below on what comic books you'll be reading this week. Back at San Diego Comic-Con, we were teased by this logo from Marvel. Look familiar? How about now? That's right, it's the same logo that was associated with the X-Men in the 90s, featured on all of its comic books and the animated series. If you take away one thing from this video, it's to go and support this current creative team on the X-Books. They are about to unravel some of the most complex history pieces of the X-Men in order to make it more approachable and give comic book readers a new jumping on point. It's going to be full of nostalgia, full of our favorite heroes, and full of brand new stories to tell. For the last few years, the X-Men have been going through quite a journey, having exchanged hands between writers and artists, most recently being categorized by color: X-Men Gold, X-Men Blue, and X-Men Red. Well, it seems like a nod to the 90s wasn't enough, and it might be time to rethink what it means to be an X-Men today. Uncanny X-Men, for the most part, has been one of the most coveted titles for professionals in comics. The X-Men are by far the highest grossing superhero team comic, doubling the gross sales of their next competitor, the Avengers. When you think of the list of X-Men comic book writers, there's definitely a top echelon of most memorable runs. Stan Lee's run, Chris Claremont, Grant Morrison, and Joss Whedon, to name a few. But in the past 10 years, the Uncanny X-Men title has only been in the hands of 4 main writers. Matt Fraction took the team to San Francisco and later formed the Utopia base. The 35-issue run got through the Dark Avengers, brought back a grown-up Hope Summers, and sparked mutants being born again all around the world. Kieran Gillen and his 31-issue run was the most notable for Schism, and focusing on Team Cyclops' hardline approach for preserving mutant kind. After 544 issues, the comic was reset to #1 to highlight this major change to the X-Men divide. Team Cyclops was on the Uncanny X-Men side, and Team Wolverine kept his comics with Wolverine and the X-Men by Jason Aaron. Avengers vs. X-Men was the highlight of this run, with the team's most senior members turning into the Phoenix Five. Brian Michael Bendis was at the helm next for Marvel Now. His 36 issues is most notable for the Cyclops Was Right Scrappy Mutant Revolution team. Bendis was also writing All New X-Men, which brought a set of time-displaced OG X-Men forward to the present. His run ended with issue 600, noting the legacy of the first volume. Most recently, Cullen Bunn and his unconventional team, led by Magneto and Psylocke, had 19 issues to deal with the threat of Death of X, Terrigen Mists, and the Inhumans vs. X-Men storyline. Resurrection brought us to current-day X-Men Gold and X-Men Blue titles, which attempted to streamline the teams to their classic roots as part of Marvel Legacy. The Uncanny X-Men title has been dormant ever since. Well, all of that will change this November. Earlier this month, Newsarama showed off the art promo for the Uncanny X-Men #1 with the tagline Disassembled. We know that X-Men Gold and Blue are ending their runs, but if Disassembled means anything, we could be looking at a major overhaul of all the X-Men teams or the unification of all the X-Men under one roof. You have all the current teams here: Tom Taylor's X-Men Red, Rogue Gambit, the Astonishing X-Men, and New Mutants, Multiple Man, as well as nods to X-Men that are still around and kicking. In an unexpected twist, the reins of Uncanny X-Men are not being handed over to just one writer, but 3, and they'll be teamed up with 4+ artists, sharing creative control over what's next for the X-Men. Ed Brisson is leading the charge with the Extermination-X-Men event that hopes to tie up a ton of loose ends that made it difficult for writers to remember any of the X-Men continuity. From resolving the time-displaced X-Men storyline to the events of Secret Wars that gave us Old Man Logan, Bloodstorm, and Jimmy Hudson, all from alternative universes mixed with the current-day X-Men. Ed's no stranger to the X-Book, as he's been with us on his run on Old Man Logan and one of my favorite Cable comic storylines in a long time. Kelly Thompson of the West Coast Avengers and Hawkeye won over the hearts of X-Men fans with Rogue and Gambit. She's now writing Mr. and Mrs. X, and the powerful and passionate storylines provide a healthy mix of nostalgia and giving fans a taste of something they wanted. Good things actually happening to the X-Men. Speaking of good things, our third writer, Matthew Rosenberg, is also a fan of breathing life into the X-Books, with Phoenix Resurrection giving us back Jean Grey, and Multiple Man tentatively bringing back Jamie Madrox. His New Mutant miniseries and Secret Warrior books brought attention to a number of previously benched X-Men. Matt is currently writing Astonishing X-Men, where Havoc isn't evil anymore, and more characters like Beast and Dazzler are given some page time. So, what can we expect from this new team and their new approach of managing the X-Books? Earlier this month, the cover of Uncanny X-Men #1 was released, and it could give us a hint of who the core X-Men might be on this team. Bishop, Nightcrawler, Psylocke, Jean Grey, Storm, X-23, Beast, Iceman, Jubilee, and Cannonball. Before we continue, I want to pause for a short spoiler alert, as some of the character and plot points that we're going to talk about next may be featured most recently in some of the X comic books, specifically Hunt for Wolverine, Mystery in Madripoor, Extermination, and it doesn't hurt to catch up on X-Men Blue and X-Men Gold as well. Let's break down the team. Bishop is back, and other than small roles in Astonishing X-Men and Multiple Man, we really don't understand how the team has come to embrace him after spending all those years trying to kill Hope Summers. I doubt they'll really touch on that though, so likely he'll just be the time-traveling expert. We don't see Cable anywhere on the promo art, and if you've been reading Extermination, there might be some reasons why. So instead of Cable as the time expert, we've got Bishop. Nightcrawler, Jean Grey, Storm, and X-23 are all main characters on X-Men Red. My guess is that X-Men Red doesn't have much longer of a shelf life, and that Tom Taylor's current story arc will end after just 12 issues. A typical run for an ongoing. This is probably a letdown to fans who've really enjoyed Tom's take on the X-Men, tackling modern day topics. Beast is either being taken off the Astonishing X-Men roster, or going between adventuring with Havoc and being the main brains of the X-Men. Iceman has had a lot of exposure lately with his solo series by Sina Grace, but was most notable as an X-Men Gold team member where he briefly formed his own team. Here's to hoping we'll get more exciting adventures with Bobby. Jubilee's last major appearance was in Generation X. The series was short-lived, but loved by fans who appreciated seeing Jubilee more grounded as a mom and mentor to young mutants. Cannonball was last seen as a member of the Avengers and saving the world in Avengers No Surrender. I imagine that he might be the perfect anchor character for this X-Men team, as he hasn't been a part of the team in quite some time, and it might be interesting to watch him catch up with everybody. Last but not least is Betsy Braddock. She is back, but in her original English body. Betsy's led the X-Men quite a bit as a member of Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Force, Bunn's Uncanny X-Men, and Charles Soule's Astonishing X-Men. Jim Zub just pushed the button in Mystery of Madripoor and turned Betsy back as she was originally intended to before Jim Lee's Psylocke as a Japanese ninja had readers wanting more. I have mixed feelings about the change, as Betsy's been one of my favorite X-Men since picking up Jim Lee's X-Men #1. Asian representation in comic books is very broken. In a time where representation is becoming an increasingly major topic, perhaps fixing Betsy has been a good thing. She was always supposed to return to her original body according to creator Chris Claremont, but the underlying problem is there aren't many other East Asian mutants on the X-Men roster that have had the level of exposure as Psylocke has in the past 20 years. Jubilee on this cover is super impactful as a Chinese American X-Men, but she's always been a gateway character and rarely given serious roles. After that, everyone is international and only from Japan. Sunfire, Armor, and Surge. The only notable Southeast Asian character is Karma, who never quite made it into the limelight after New Mutants. I may be missing one or two mutants, especially those like Hijack, who is drawn Asian but never really went to his backstory. Here's hoping that Jubilee will have a huge role in the new Uncanny X-Men, and others like Armor and Surge might get some more page time. So what are some of the other unknowns about this title and things that I'm looking forward to? Number 1. Where is Wolverine? We know that Logan is coming back, but it's been a bit drawn out and we don't know how he's going to play into the team, especially after being such a major leader on the X-Men team in the past 10 years after Schism pitted him up against Cyclops. Some fans wonder what's going to happen between him and Jean Grey, with many against Jean Grey and Logan makeouts. My bet, it's gonna happen, but Logan is gonna take a backseat and let Jean and Storm run the show. Number 2, where is Cyclops? It's difficult to say that we're going to be back to the 19-era's X-Men without a huge member of the X-Men team being absent. Adult Cyclops has been dead since the Terrigen Mist took him out, but Marvel has been teasing that perhaps it's time to set things right. There was no way of saving the path that adult Cyclops was on. So, is the younger time-displaced Cyclops going to take his place in the current timeline and leave his friends behind? My guess is they're going to take a Star Trek Voyager Ensign Kim approach, where a time-displaced Cyclops from the ruined future will jump into this timeline because there's nothing left for him in his. Sounds complicated, but not really for X-Men comics. Number 3, who are the villains? The X-Books have some of the most memorable Marvel baddies. Magneto, Juggernaut, the White Queen, Mystique. The problem is that over the years, with mutants being hunted down and brought to near decimation, that all of these major villains have had a redeeming story arc and have even served as full-fledged X-Men. Even Mr. Sinister has become less sinister over the years. Heck, in X-Men Red, the team is riding on a Sentinel. As much as I don't like Cassandra Nova, I will say that Grant Morrison's run was memorable because he created a brand new villain that everybody could follow along and see how the X-Men reacted to. The X-Men need a new apocalypse level threat. Interesting enough, Hunt for Wolverine planted the seed that one of the X-Men is actually a spy, traitor, plant who really isn't a mutant? Maybe? My guess is that this new threat starts with them. I have no idea who they're gonna pin this on or why they would even do this to the X-Men, as most of the current X-Men have clear alibis for what they've been up to. But with all the telepaths in the X-Men mansion, I'm surprised that anything is getting past them. My ultimate wish is that Uncanny X-Men will star all of our favorite X-Men under one roof and become what I always loved about the X-Men, which is being the classic superhero soap opera. Think Young and the Restless. And if you're too young to remember what soap operas are, think of a reality TV show where you stuff a bunch of superheroes in a house to live together. And by the way, force them to save the world. There needs to be drama, but with meaningful character development and story arcs that highlight the support and family system that this superhero team has become over the years. That's it for my unpacking of the Uncanny X-Men announcement coming to you this November. But what do you think? What are you most looking forward to with this Uncanny X-Men team? What characters would you like to see on the roster? What story arcs do you think are going to take place? And what mysterious villains lie next to threaten the X-Men and their family? If you'd like to nerd out with me, you can follow me on Twitter at LeonScorpius. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. We appreciate all of your support. Keep nerding out with us, and we'll see you next issue.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to watch more from us, click on one of the thumbnails. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep up to date with our latest shenanigans. Be sure to click the bell for notifications, and check out the description below for a link to our Patreon page. See you next time!